What's the most valuable resource a biotech CEO can have in today's environment? Well, it's not just capital, it's connections. Whether it's finding the right investor or having candid conversations with your C-level peers, access to the right people can change everything. On today's Russo Edge Podcast, we talk about what it takes to get into those conversations and how staying in them can shape the future of your life science company. Sara, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Solomon. Great. Thank you so much.
Well, look, it's always great to have you. Look, talk to us about how you got your company started in this space. What inspired you to launch Demy-Colton?
Well, when I was working at we closed our New York office, and I decided to set up Demy-Colton on my own. And I was inspired to do this partly because there were other programs that I wanted to do. Primarily, while I was at Bio, companies would come to me and say, Sara, when we're out here at JPM, there's no room for us anymore. Smaller private companies, there's no room. We're not really part of that gang anymore, and there's no space for us. Why doesn't Bio do something about it? And at that point in time, Bio simply did not have enough bandwidth. So my first thought was, to work on creating an event during JPM week, and Biotech Showcase was born out of that. It happened faster than I thought it would. The first year we did it, I sent invitations out to I don't know how many hundreds of people while I was in an internet cafe in Rome, of all places. That's after I got EBD to say yes, they would partner with me on it. And we had 50 presenting companies and 300 attendees. That was the beginning of Biotech Showcase. And, that really kind of launched Demy-Colton and the pathway that we took. We did a number of, we were supporting other local regional organizations, and then we kind of went out on our own and created our, Biotech CEO Summits, which are frankly just really profound.
Well, you certainly are an industry leader. I think you've just done a wonderful job and built a career of putting the right people into the right room. So kind of share with us some of the secrets of curating these meaningful connections instead of just putting name tags on everyone and saying, have at it.
Well, there's a lot more thought that goes into it than that, I can assure you. It's about identifying the components, if you will, that would have meaning for the company. So our thinking is always focused on the biotech company. What can we do to advance them? That's what we're in it for. And, developing relations with, potential partners, whether it's pharma or another biotech company, finding the way to make us doing that, easy. And a lot of that was built through the partnering program, but also putting on, meaningful sessions, finding a way to really enhance the, the way that companies present at our meetings. And we're thinking, that going forward, when we do BioFuture in New York City in the fall, we're looking at a new way to have companies present. We think that having a company present in a room and requiring investors to go in there is almost the equivalent of saying to the investor, you have to pick this company. And we think that's difficult. So what we're thinking about doing is putting together a group of companies to basically to present to an audience of 100. Because you know that in order to attract investment, the investor has to hear about you over and over and over again, and hopefully with updates along the way, because that makes it much more meaningful. So we're always thinking about what we can do to make it really meaningful for the, primarily with our focus on the biotech companies, and then for others that come to the meeting, like our pharma partners, and, engaging with them along the way to provide them with meaningful opportunities to talk about what they want to do with, biotech companies.
Well, you do a really good job of helping those biotech CEOs really kind of traverse what has really become a tough capital environment out there. And the events like the ones you just mentioned, it really does help those companies remain visible and create a pathway moving forward. I also now want to talk to you about logistics, right? What do CEOs often get wrong when it comes to preparing for investor events and setting up those meetings? What can you do to help in that space?
Well, that's something that we talk about a lot, and it's a bit of a pet peeve with me. So if I can just say, and I know biotech CEOs are so very busy, but when you are recounting on other people's money to move your product, your asset forward, you have to take good care. You have to be a good chaperone of it. So when it comes to attending an event like our biotech showcase or any other partnering meeting, if you want to seriously meet with investors, you can go into the system, identify who's going to be there before you reach out to them. Before you reach out to them, you need to do the research and identify who may be interested in your company. What are the comps that these investors are investing in? You don't want to approach an investor who was only interested in, phase 2 and forward, potential assets when you're only at, preclinical or phase 1. You don't want to do that because then you look foolish. You look as though you haven't done your homework. If they're investing in oncology and you just happen to be focused on fungus, that may not be the right thing. So that's the work that it's really incumbent upon a company and their team to do. It's better to take fewer meetings and have them each one be more meaningful and insightful than to just do scattershot and try to get, many meetings. I always encourage CEOs that I speak to reach out to investors. You can do the meetings at Biotech Showcase or on site, but reach out to them beforehand to let them know that you're going to request a meeting and tell them why and why they should meet with you. So to up the possibility of securing a meeting with them.
Yeah, that's a good way of achieving connectivity. Kind of talk to us about what kind of investors are showing up these days. We often hear about specialized or generalist investors, but what about, say, family offices or
Yeah.
individual investors?
Well, at Biotech Showcase, for instance, and at
Mhm.
BioFuture, you have family office, you have offices, you have individual investors. You don't have institutionals that much, although
Okay.
there are some,
Mhm.
because we do have public companies.
Yeah.
But it runs the whole gamut of investors that you would see. So venture capitalists, investors that are sector specific investors. Depending upon what it is that we're doing, you will find that they will also attend our meeting. I
Yeah.
just got a whole list of them. I said, okay, tell me
Mhm.
what kind of investors came to Biotech Showcase, and I have a list of about 30.
Oh,
So
that's really good. Yeah.
yeah.
At your CEO summit, conversations are all off the record, Sarah. We know that. So, why is that so very important? And what makes these sessions so different from typical panels or investor fireside chats?
Well, we run the CEO summits more like a think tank, if you will.
Mhm.
So everybody at the CEO summits has a job. You cannot just register to come to the meeting.
Okay.
So you're a CEO or you're a discussant or a
Mhm.
sponsor, but you all have a job.
Yeah.
And the job of a sponsor or a discussant would be to start a conversation, to set the stage for it, or to lead a roundtable discussion on a specific topic.
Mhm.
It's closed door, and it allows the CEOs to share their experiences, i.e., a banker comes to you with a new potential financing proposal that you haven't heard of. Well,
Yeah.
what have other CEOs done? Have they gone down that pathway before? What is the good and the bad? A pharma company or two is talking to you. What are other CEOs' experiences with those pharma companies? What is the real motivation behind them? Do they want to do a takeout? Will they forbid you from working with that asset with another company? You need to understand those things in order to make the best decisions for your companies. So talking to others, leading your team.
Yeah.
How do you manage the communications? The big thing with all your audiences, the internal audiences, the external, the board, the media. How do you manage all of that and keep your team marching along in the same direction? How do you deal with, a co-founder and CSO who says, well, I know the CEO likes asset number 1, but I really prefer asset number 3. What do you do about that when you're in clinical trials and you're looking to raise money? So you have to keep everybody going in the same direction. And what are the tricks? What if you were hired by a board and there is maybe a board member who has got other interests? The interests are not totally aligned with the company.
Yeah.
Their interests are perhaps to make a quick exit, and they're forcing you to make potential decisions that may not be best for your company. How do you deal with it? Yeah. So those are the conversations. You can't have those conversations sitting around a board table. You can't have them necessarily. Yeah. You can't have them with your senior staff. You have to figure out how to navigate them. And that truly, I believe, is the value of it. We've heard some really profound stories at our CEO summits.
Yeah, I bet you have. You often say that there's no playbook for being a biotech CEO. Why is that? And how are these events helping to write that playbook real time?
Well, I don't know if the events specifically are writing that, but what will happen, well, maybe let me take that back.
What's transpiring, right?
Yeah, because the events will update people on what is happening and how people are doing things, from, whether it's financing or deal making or forming a company or, working with a specific investor or not. But there was no roadmap. If you think back to when I got into this space, which was in 1999, that long ago, there was no roadmap. The roadmap was, yes, we're external research organizations. We will get to a certain point and we will sell or out-license our asset that we're working on to pharma. We're not going to develop it. It wasn't until about 2004, 2005 that CEOs started talking about FIPCOs, fully integrated pharmaceutical companies. And, that was a big thing that stirred the pot quite a bit. And now more companies are, in fact, fully integrated pharma companies. But biotech companies don't necessarily have, that they're not built in the same way as pharma companies. So you don't have a clinical development department. You don't have a department that necessarily can help you understand your valuation. You don't have the infrastructure that bigger companies have. And a lot of CEOs, they may come out of the scientific world, but you can't go to Harvard and follow the playbook on how to build a biotech company because there are so many variables and unknowns. Like, where do you get your money? Other people's money. Again, being a CEO of a biotech company means that you're always raising money. You're always leading your organization. You're always dealing with the unknowns and the challenges of the FDA and going through approval and relying upon the research. It's really hard. That I applaud every CEO of a biotech company because, frankly, and after all these years, I think it's one of the hardest jobs in the world.
Yeah, and you're helping many of them to navigate what is a very tough and difficult landscape. And I want to ask you, even more importantly, this is our last question, with everything that's happening across the biotech landscape, what's your message to CEOs who are trying to navigate those difficult spaces? I know you just named some of them, but how are you helping them to do that?
Yeah, that's well, by being an ear and listening to them and bringing the
Mhm.
questions to the forefront. So,
Yeah.
when it comes to our CEO summit, we will have discussions about everything that's going on currently, bringing opinions together that may conflict with one another, so that we can understand what's going on. When we get to our BioFuture meeting, we will also do the same thing.
Mhm.
Um, that's understanding what is happening in terms of the bigger environment is important to understanding what one needs to do in order to successfully raise capital. It's only one part of it, but it's a
Yeah.
part of it that's really important.
Yeah, it really is. Well, we want to thank you, Sara Demy. You're awesome, great information. So whether it's in the US, Europe, or anywhere where innovation is taking place and being built, we know that you are going to be at the forefront of it. So we greatly appreciate you and the work that you're doing with biotech leaders. We know it can be a very vulnerable space to work in. So we appreciate the work that you're doing out there. I'm Solomon Wilcots, everyone. We want to thank you for joining us right here on the Russo Edge Podcast.
And thank you so much.
Thank you.